Okay, RSS Formula 1990 V12 at Spa. Ambient temps, get that up in a moment, I hope. Ambient temps are 10 degrees C. I do not have the tire warmers on. And we're going to be doing default setup, not going to touch anything, including the tire compound or pressures. I will check that the tire compounds load up with different graphics where applicable. Yes, all right. So mediums, not touching the tire pressures. Got 70 liters of fuel, which is our default. Front ride height is barely passing at 20. If we bring the fuel load up, that goes to the red zone. Okay. Understood. Not going to change anything here. Just going to make sure that any graphics things that might change are going to be fine. Total default. And I've been instructed to do 5 laps. No tire blankets, of course. So the first lap will be a warm-up. Looks like we've got a good dashboard. First gear. Clutch is very nice. Good feedback out of the pit lane on the steering. Second dash page comes up with the RPM. It's up into 7th gear. Steering weight is nice, I like that. Starting to get shift lights up at the top of the dash. They're coming up in sequence, it would appear. Just got the first 3 lit. Downshifts are nicely rev matched. Full revs are good. Full throttle upshifts feel good. Nice and smooth. There's the rev limit. Understeer on cold tires. Perfanie tire temps are coming up. Brakes feeling good. Lift through here. Don't want to try and take this flat yet. Probably will be flat. Fuel level 67. All of that appears to be updating nicely. I've got a good lap time, good speedometer. I've got a good digital tach. Brakes felt good there. Full throttle. Very good traction. 7th gear for Eau Rouge should be flat, and it is. Down Kemmel, will we hit 300? We do. How do the brakes feel this big stop? Very good, solid, stable braking. So far, the force feedback feels good. Bit of understeer across the front end. That's expected on a default setup. Understeer into Puhan. Again, expected. Force feedback clipping is due to my settings. That's no problem. I don't believe on the car's end. This is not flat. Chip lights do flash once they all light up. That's all well and good. It's very, very poised on turn in at medium and low speed. There is high speed understeer. I would expect that. Gear ratios feel real good, very closely stacked through the mid of the box. A little bit of a wiggle there, coming into Eau Rouge, the bottom of Rédillon. Braking. Short shift into fourth, on the power again. Nice, transitions nicely. From mid-corner back to high throttle, track out. Does push a little bit more with the understeer. Some of that may be differential related in terms of setup. Hoo-haw a little, dab a brake. Defanier, fourth gear through here, probably too high a gear, probably get away with third. Showing 59 liters of fuel. First gear, there's the wheel spin. I like that. A little bit of instability at really high speed when the suspension is compressed. Again, that doesn't at all seem improper or inappropriate. It's a 30-year-old car, remember. If anything, I'm very surprised at how stable it is. A little bit of understeer there at the top of the comb. Always understeer here. Basically any car. Very nice. It's very compliant over the bumps. Get it over the curbing, you get a little bit of oversteer on corner exit, as you would expect there. Is this going to be flat? Yep, flat now. Very, very good. Just taking a look around in the cockpit when I don't have much else going on. Looks very nicely put together. Not getting any clipping graphics-wise or any weird shadows or shader effects. $154,874. Very nicely done. Very stable that time through Eau Rouge Rédillon, no problem. Overall engine power seems good. Doesn't feel too explosive, nor does it feel like it's underpowered. And the brakes are very confidence-inspiring. No problems at all on that. The car does have a lot of downforce, and that is something that I would expect. Flat bottom car, very simple, almost crude wings, but this is what they did back in the day. Are the lap times too quick? I don't think so. It's a little bit hard to judge that, only because this track was not in this configuration entirely back in 1990. Bit of understeer mid-corner. Everything looking good here, though. Got on the curb there, and I got the under tray, I think, bottom for a moment. Big twitch. This will be our last flyer. 153.950 that time with a couple of little mistakes. Tires definitely starting to warm up here at the rear, braking traction a little bit more easily. But it's very good. Again, what I would expect to get from a car like this. Short shift. Beautiful. Very wide over the AstroTurf on the exit. Stable as you like, no problem. And just getting the nose in at high speed there for Pujol really, and a little bit into Fagné. Let's try third gear into here. Running in the lower gear does help it turn a little bit better. And there we go. Tableau is flat. 45 liters indicated on our fuel level. Very good. On the brakes hard. Cadence braking, of course. No issues there. 153.369. And this will be our in lap. Beautiful. Stable as you like. The inside curbing there, I hit it. Got a little bit of instability dialed into the car, but that was me doing that. Still able to recover. Is there anything in it that I don't like? It pushes a little bit more for my liking at medium speed in terms of the understeer that you do get, but that's a setup thing. I'm convinced that I'd be able to dial that out with some minor setup changes, honestly. The only thing that's more of a concern to me is coming on to default setup when you first load up, with the ride height being marginal at the front end at 70 liters of fuel on board. When the fuel level would go up, for example, if you wanted to do a race distance in this thing with no refueling, as it would have done, you're not going to be able to get that default setup past scrutineering. The tire warm-up, though, felt good. Temperatures came up like I would expect. The grip levels came up like I would expect. There's a pit lane speed limit at 80 clicks. That's good. There is a lockout on neutral, so that's all well and good. Reverse comes in like you'd expect. Okay, first impressions here are, first of all, the default setup is understeery, as I would expect it to be, but not so much. You can use the brakes, particularly you could use trail braking, and you can deal with that situation, so no problem. Tire grip comes on nicely through the warm-up. And again, it was pretty linear. It responded as I expected by the end of the outlap. The tires were pretty much ready to go. Same for the brakes. Little bit, I would say, at high speed, there is the potential for some high-speed instability. I think with the weight transfer, particularly going into Puhan, there is a chance of getting the rear light, which you can manage that with combining the brake and throttle inputs to an extent, which I think you're going to be doing anyway, driving this car because it is a paddle shift. But the biggest concern that I've got in terms of the default setup is that on default fuel load, it's marginal in terms of legality with front ride height. But if you really fill up the tank to full capacity, it's not legal at all. So immediately out of the gate, if you want to do a race distance, you have to change the setup. And that's going to be something that perhaps some of the people who just buy the car and are going to be wanting to get out there and just race it right away, or they're not going to know about the setup. They want to put more gas in, and all of a sudden they're not going to be able to drive it. So it's not a bug, but it's something that the user has to be educated on so that they understand what to do with the setup to raise the ride height. It's not hard to do in Assetto Corsa, but not all of the users, I think, are going to know what to do about that, and it's going to give you guys a little bit of a headache in terms of the customer support, which I know you don't really want to be dealing with, particularly about something that's that fundamental. But overall, impressions are really good. The sounds work great. All the instrumentation in the cockpit has given me good information, and it's all legible at all times, so that's all fine. Cockpit detailing in terms of the shaders, things like that, nothing strange is happening in here. Not getting any sort of clipping over the bumps or with the big compressions in the car at speed. Nothing's clipping into meshes or anything like that, so that's fine. So at this point, I think, unless there are more under-the-skin things that still need to be tweaked, aside from the default setup, I would say that you've got something that's ready, more or less ready for a public release, if that's what you're thinking of doing next in terms of your next major step. But no, I don't have any big qualms about it. Again, it's only that default setup being marginal on the front ride height. But yeah, other than that, absolutely, this is something that I want, and I think it's something that a lot of people want. And I'd like to thank NK and the rest of the Race Sim Studio team for giving me the chance to shake this thing down. It is very, very awesome to see a car like this finally done properly in Assetto Corsa. And yes, I think it's going to be a real winner.